co-founder of Startup Lady, and this is Startup Lady Live. And just to let you know a little bit more about Startup Lady, in case this is the first time that you're watching, Startup Lady brings gender equality to the startup community, a safe space and community for women and non-binary individuals to find, start, and grow their own businesses with inspiration, education, and support. And with these lives, we bring to you conversations with our startup network. Every conversation touches on inner inspiration, personal growth, and lessons learned. So even if you're not starting a business anytime soon, you'll find a lot to enjoy. And if you have any questions, please make sure to chat it to us below. Our amazing team will be checking the Facebook Live for any questions for our guests. So please don't be shy. Ask any questions and we will do our best to cover them. This evening, as I mentioned earlier, we have a special guest, Kani Munidasa. He is one of Startup Lady's mentors. And honestly, I haven't had the pleasure of speaking to him in more depth. So I'm really excited to have him here with us this evening. Kani constantly puts himself out there, from living in Japan, Sri Lanka, and the United States, to spending 18 years helping various industry leaders transform their businesses, and to most recently, co-founding Chrysalis. He's learned firsthand the steps needed to make changes happen. So before we begin, as always, I want to thank everyone for being with us and supporting us and following us up until now. We wouldn't be here without all our lovely supporters. So thank you. And don't forget to like and follow our Facebook page and join our free membership so you can always stay in the loop with what's happening with Startup Lady. So yeah, Kani, thank you for being with us this evening.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Coco. Really love what you guys are doing with this series, as well as what you guys do as Startup Lady. And it's a pleasure and honor to be a mentor as well.
Thank you so much, Kani. I have to start with, what is with this title? I mean, I know we were talking about it and I was just like, I don't know what you mean. So I'd love to hear more.
Sure. So magic comes from within. I know it's a crazy title. Hopefully it got some attention and some interest. But yeah, I think what I'm trying to say by this is there's magic all around us. You can go to where the magic is and find it, as well as you can create your own magic. And today I hope to talk a little bit about both those two things.
I love it. I mean, I've always been a fan of magic, so I'm excited to hear more.
Yeah, let me just quickly maybe give a self-intro and my background, and then we can maybe go into ask me any questions with regards to magic. Yeah, so until like 5 years ago, I was a salaryman. I'm sure you all know what that word means, the English speakers too. But yeah, I was just working in corporate America, large organizations, enterprises. It definitely taught me a lot, all in the tech industry, but never as a software engineer. And one day I realized that I had this kind of itch to learn how to code. It's been so many years in the industry and I couldn't build anything on my own. So I, mulled over it for a couple of weeks, months, and finally got the courage to go up to my boss and say, look, I think I want to learn how to code and I don't want to do this anymore. And he asked me, Kani, is that an itch or is it a rash? And I didn't hesitate to say it's a bad rash. And he said, well, you need to follow your heart. So it took some time to master the courage to leave my cushy corporate life. I was hopping around the world in business class, drinking champagne in the lounges. And it was I finally felt like I made it somewhere in the organization and in the business and the industry. But something was radically missing for me. And so I quit and decided to join a coding boot camp and learned how to code. And 3.5 years ago, myself and my co-founder Yan Fan, who's also a mentor at Startup Lady, we created Code Chrysalis in Japan.
So what made you actually want to pick up coding all of a sudden, though? Out of all the things you could have decided to pick up or do?
Sure. It's one of those things. I believe that coding gives you superpowers. It comes like all superheroes. It, however, comes with the responsibility of doing good things with it. I'm a mechanical systems engineer by trade, and I did robotics during my undergraduate studies. So I love making things that move. But I was fascinated by kind of writing some lines of code and making this app work, which is something that I actually didn't enjoy much during my university days. I took a few classes, and I was too curious to not study it and not learn how to do something with code. So like I said, it sounds like, I just quit my job overnight. It was a lot of thinking and a lot of conversations with my wife and getting, figuring out how to, make these bold moves and keep life going. So it took me about 2 years to eventually have that conversation with my boss. I definitely eventually decided that I want to learn how to do this thing. Whether I like it or not is something that I'll find out. But I wanted to be able to understand how to build something using software, and felt that it was really important for us all in the world that we're heading. It's basically the superpower to be able to talk to machines. That's what coding is. It's a language that allows you to tell machines what to do. So simply put. So I thought that was a cool thing to maybe do and see if I enjoy it.
Okay. So you picked up coding, and how do you go from studying coding to wanting okay, let me start a coding school? How does that happen?
Yeah. So one of the so hitting back on the topic too, magic comes from within. One of the places you can find magic is outside your comfort zone. And by this I mean if kind of this is where you are comfortable, then outside of that is where magic happens. And all you need to do is to put yourself out there, and things really happen. It takes a life of its own. It takes a lot of energy to put yourself in that, discomfort. But once you get used to it, you learn that with the discomfort means you're learning new things, and you're putting yourself in situations that you would rather not be. And then things happen, right? So I'm sorry, what was your question again, Coco?
No, it's just how do you take that leap from, wanting to study how to code and going from there to just starting your code?
So the first step was, so I wanted to learn how to code. So I made that leap and joined the school. It was a software engineering boot camp in San Francisco called Reactor. I spent 3 months there, to be honest, toiling with these other young students. I was the oldest in my class. First pair programming on day one happened with an 18-year-old who seemed to instinctively understand how to do the next thing. And I was struggling. And with these struggles, a fantastic thing happened. I realized as I was learning how to code, I was learning a lot more about myself, things I did not know to this day or that day. Things I like doing, things I don't like doing, things that I'm really good at, things I'm not good at. I realized, for example, I'm a terrible YouTube searcher. I mean, internet searcher, right? I mean, if you say ready, set, go, look for something, I mean, everybody found it before I did. And simple things like that, right? So a lot of self-realizations. And something interesting is I learned how I learn. It's called meta learning. It's actually a thing, but I realized the best way Kani learns, and we all learn things very differently. So being able to hone in on that also was like having, building another superpower, because now I know how to do things if I want to learn something very efficiently. So learning how you react and how you learn best is also something that happened during the program. Anyways, so learning how to code, all these different experiences, being uncomfortable, uh, I realized, wow, these boot camps don't just teach people how to code. It actually teaches some really strong life lessons. Um, and my wife has always told me that I'm a great teacher. Like if we go snowboarding with a group, I'm that guy that, like, instead of, I mean, after buying that expensive lift ticket, I'll be spending a whole day in the bunny slopes teaching people how to ski. I mean, snowboard. And I never realized it, but I guess I really enjoyed teaching people and empowering people, and giving, transferring whatever I know to them. And I think I started to realize this while I was doing the program as well. So I'm like, how can I make this a career? How can I kind of get up every day and do this thing that I do best and I enjoy the most, which is teaching people? And it's not just about coding either. We could, and I could emphasize more on this as well, the soft skill side, but give people an opportunity, 3 months in their lives, which we hardly take to do something, right? When was the last time you've taken 3 months in your life to, do that night and day, every day? It's rare. So I realized we could definitely do a better program that also focuses on the soft skills, which is an important skill as a software engineer. I can talk more about that later. But just for any job, right? Communication skills, being able to work in teams, having a growth mindset, um, being autonomous in your learning. These are things, life skills that once you learn, that you kind of continue to invest on. So that's when I realized I want to do this. I want to continue this as a career, as a life goal, and yeah, that's so I went all in, and I thought about where to do this, and we could have done it anywhere in the US, because there's still no boot camp in the US that focuses this much as ours on the soft skills side, right? So we could have done it anywhere, but I came here to Japan in the 90s to do my undergraduate studies in robotics, and at that time Japan was like this high tech, leader in many industries, many fields, and even electronics and mechanics. Um, but I look back at the Japan I used to love and used to call home, and realize that it's losing its technology leadership position in many of the industries, or have already lost it. So I was like, that's it. I need to go back to Japan, because I think Japan really does not use software well and leverage software well, does not understand the power of software, and don't build applications in using modern methodologies. And I thought one of the reasons we are stuck here in Japan is also English skills, right? So it's not a surprise, after so many years of K-12 education of English in schools, people are still not very bilingual. So those are two weaknesses I find that that is holding Japan back. And yeah, so I thought maybe I can go back to Japan and do my small part at kind of maybe influencing an individual at a time, maybe an industry, and dreaming big, maybe even change the influence a country, or change his whole outlook. So that was how I went from just learning to code and this I want to start a school, I want to do this.
So, like, I understand, yeah, getting out of your comfort zone, putting yourself out there. But sometimes, how do you know what is the limit? Like, at what point is it okay to stay out of your comfort zone? Because there are times when you shouldn't really stay there the whole time. Can you give an example of how to gauge it, perhaps?
So my answer is kind of contradictory, but we at Code Chrysalis also always say, be comfortable being uncomfortable. And by that, we are actually telling our students to always be uncomfortable. Because, I mean, I love being the dumbest guy in the room, right? Because I know I'm learning and I know I'm challenged. It's really not fun when I'm the know-it-all guy and just, calling the shots. So it is a very opinionated view, my personal view, but I encourage people to always put themselves in an uncomfortable situation, because life never stops for you and you need to continue to learn. And every time you fail or you experience this new thing, you get stronger, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's a real thing. And just keep pushing yourselves out there and believing in yourself. But it brings me to this second thing. It sounds like, oh, Kani kept on pushing himself out of the comfort zone and magic happened. It's not all that. There are other things that actually helped make Code Chrysalis happen. And I'll talk a little bit more about the growth mindset, cultivating a growth mindset. But I believe strongly that that's another way that you make magic happen. You can bring it, instead of just going outside your comfort zone and finding it. But the other thing is, it sounds so simple, but it's networking with people. This is truly where you can make some magic. I talked a lot about my goal of creating a school in Japan, and someone heard my story and said, hey, I know someone who's already doing a school. You should talk to her, and you guys should just exchange ideas and thoughts, because she's already a CTO of another coding school. I'm like, yeah, please introduce me. And that's how I met Yan. And Yan and I met for the first time in San Francisco over some ramen, and I started talking to her about, at 80 miles an hour, about my idea to create a school in Japan and why I think it's Japan and all these things. She was very skeptical initially. We kept on talking about this, and I got a lot of ideas and encouragement and perspectives from her that also helped me a lot in figuring out, or give me the confidence to make the next bold step, right? So definitely people in your life, they're all magical. And, you need to open up, and you need to know how to harness that magic, right? I'm grateful to my wife for allowing me to do this crazy thing at, starting this at 43. And actually to this day being the breadwinner while I try to make a business out of this school. Grateful, for people who introduced me to Yan and kind of, figuring out how our strengths, we definitely have different strengths, and how we can together combine our strengths to make a 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 5 kind of situation. And yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, people have magic, and how you need to network and go out and seek it and make it part of your secret potion, if you will.
Yeah. Oh, we have a question from Facebook from Katrina Hovland. What was your biggest fear about quitting your previous job?
Oh, this is really sad, but I thought I was going to really miss the miles I got on United. I mean, I was like, it's so addictive, right? I mean, I was 1K and, soon to be something else, and global services. And, I used to sometimes do at the end of the year a run to like Hong Kong and have dinner and come back, just so that I keep my 1K status and stuff like this. It was so stupid. I felt I will miss being like, I mean, I had organizations that I managed across the world, and I would go and visit these offices and the people. I loved meeting and working with my teams, and And being in Shanghai during Shanghai crab season, and they were all great experiences that I thought I would miss a lot. So I know it's probably not the answer you were looking for, but I really worried about that. And after I quit my job, all that jet set life ended. I haven't. Last 3.5 years, I've been more here with a brick and mortar business. This is where I need to be. And actually, I haven't really missed it at all. I feel so, it's opposite. I realize how much I've been missing out not doing this. Of course, I still love traveling. My wife still loves traveling. We try to make, take breaks from our work and travel for leisure, but happily traveling economy and, totally roughing it out. And the beauty in life is all over, So, yeah, I mean, so that's on a lighter note, but yeah, I was worried definitely about, career. Also, I've worked hard to earn this position in this industry as a thought leader, as an executive, and felt a little bit about what if all this fails, what if this doesn't make money. There was a lot of things to worry about, and becoming an entrepreneur was not a thing that happened overnight. Like I mentioned, just a normal salary man, just who at some point realized that I want to do something more than this, and even then making that leap, as cool as I make it sound, it was something I was weaning into slowly. It took about 2 years to eventually get the courage to do it.
Yeah, so we have a question actually from Facebook from Rachel Villanueva. She's asking, did you ever have a fear of failure when you left your job and entered the coding boot camp? If so, how did you get over it?
Yeah, failure. I should say I did have a lot of fear about, if this would work, or, what if it doesn't. They were real. But somehow, I guess, me wanting to do this, and I've always, I think, wanted to be an entrepreneur. My dad was one, my brother is one, and I was the only salaryman. And so I always knew I wanted to do it, but I was probably, that's why I probably didn't do it until 43. I've always feared the outcomes, or missing out on the life I have. But I made the leap of faith. I think it helped. I saved up about 2 years, so I knew I could run for 2 years without, if everything went bad, I could still have a burn rate of 2 years trying to do this. I was really fortunate that my wife was also able to support me, while doing this. So there were some kind of safety nets. So you got to think about that too. But I can tell you this much now. Today, there's so many things to worry about. This business may not float next year. We might not make the post-COVID era. But I'm not worried at all anymore, because I know everything that I'm learning today, every experience, everything is something that I'll take with for my next goal, or whatever I decide to do next after this. And worst case, I know how to flip burgers, so why am I worried, right?
Oh, I love it. So, okay, so you wanted to change jobs, you went to coding school, and then you wanted to start your business. And okay, so you put yourself out there and the growth mindset. And you mentioned meta learning. I'm very curious about that, because I think it's very important to figure out how everyone learns. Of course, each person learns differently. Can you give some examples of how you figured out how best you learn?
Yeah. So in my personal experience, I realized I'm one of those people who just need to jump in and do it. I can't read. I can read many books. I can watch the tutorials, but if I don't do it and build it into my muscle memory, I I'm not good at kind of retaining. And that's just me. And maybe there may be some people in the audiences who go like, that's me too. But everybody's different. And looking at now graduating so many students out of this program, we see people who take notes rigorously. We see people who um, writes really good texts after the lecture. We see people who actually jump in and do the exercises. We see various people doing various things. And those are some of the other examples of like how different we all, take learning or jump into learning. So in my case, going back to your question, I think with anything, like I'm doing a couple of different projects right now in my personal life, and it's all about literally there. I'm getting my hands dirty. I'm building a few things out there in the dirt, and it's just going there every weekend and watching YouTube and getting some idea on how to do it, and then actually doing it. So that's how I learn best.
So let's say you like to jump into things, but what about the times when you jump into things and let's say you fail miserably? How do you get back up? Do you have any advice for people that might struggle through something like that?
Yes. So the whole thing about the growth mindset, one of the most important things about cultivating a growth mindset is considering or treating failures as a step towards success. There's no things called failures, only iterations, right? And if you have the outlook to look at things this way, then there was just another iteration and you figure out how to do something better. I'll give you a simple example. It's a crazy, stupid example, but I wanted to make a small parking lot, right, in this piece of land. And so I watched YouTube, buy some gravel, flatten the floor. And I think I've now made the same parking garage about 4 times, right? Because each iteration, either there was, in the first case, it wasn't flat enough. So water kind of piled up in one area and that was really sucky. So I had to take all the gravel out, flatten it again, level it, and make sure things are leveled. Then I put the gravel back, but then I had maybe this time too much gravel, so the car was like a bit sinking in, feeling. But I never considered any one of those iterations as failure. It's like, oh, that didn't work, so I'll do this next, right? And if you can start to look at things this way, that's the biggest thing about cultivating a growth mindset. And the second thing I mentioned on how magic happens is by cultivating that growth mindset and never looking at failure as actually a failure.
Okay. So then, I understand the growth mindset, but there must have been times in your life where you decided to walk away. So for example, you decided to walk away from your salaryman life. When do you know what that point is in your life?
Wow, that's an interesting question. The best way I can explain it is to just listen to your maybe heart and not your head, because I think our head tends to think through things very rationally. As smarter than you are, you'll probably think about 100 things that could go wrong, or the 100 reasons why you should do something. But the heart is a very simple, a very complex thing for sure. But if you listen to it, I think it's simple. And in my case, my wanting to do something other than being a salaryman in a corporate enterprise world, was so, it honestly, I can't put it better, but it was a rash. I had to scratch it. It was really a itch, a thorn on my side. And I kept talking to my wife and she's like, what are you talking about? And we went back and forth and it still didn't go away. And so listening to that voice, that's speaking to you sometimes, and we always kind of say, you're irrational, go away. I think it's important to listen to that voice sometime too, give it some thought, see if it comes back. And if it comes back, why is it coming back? And does it get loud enough to make you want to do something?
So Kani, I'm curious, when do you think, have you always had a growth mindset, and have you always been the type of person that wants to get out of his comfort zone? Or was there some point in your life that it just hit you and you decided to change things up in your life?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if there was a switch at some point that I changed, or if it's something that I've always had. Um, so that's an honest answer. But thinking about it, I feel it came a little later in my life. So, because if it was something that I inherently had, I think I would have maybe jumped in and become an entrepreneur sooner. I would have been much more comfortable in taking that risk and saying, hey, it's just iteration and moving on. But I obviously wasn't that comfortable. I obviously wasn't in that position. Uh, I don't think I did anything specific per se to cultivate it, honestly. But in my case, it's something that I just kind of started to um, manifest, and maybe I started listening to it a bit more seriously. I mean, if you guys out there have a crazy idea that's really bugging you and makes you want to do it, I mean, I know I sound like a hypocrite because I wasn't able to do this myself, but listen to it, and the biggest thing you can do to make magic happen is to just jump in and do it, because that's the first and hardest thing to do, right? To just doing it. And but when you do it, just like Startup Lady, you guys got together and decided that it's a great thing we should do, and you started small and it's now a big thing, and it's changing lives. So really, yeah, no moment in my life I can point to or event, but I think it just came to me with my desire to wanting to break out of the corporate world.
We have another question from Rachel on Facebook. What are some other things we can do in our daily lives to cultivate a growth mindset?
So one thing I tell everybody is to basically uh, have faith in yourself, right? We are our biggest critics, and sometimes that helps us improve, but it also sometimes helps. It um, kind of limits you to what you can do, right? You got to believe in yourself, and you want to and we all have imposter syndrome sometimes too. Talk to the voice that's saying you can do it, that you can. I mean, as things that I do every day as an entrepreneur, we didn't know how to file taxes in Japan. We didn't know before that. We didn't know how to start a company in Japan, right? But if you can, I know it's easier said than done, Rachel. I'm sorry, it's not a really great answer. Something you can practice, but uh, just believing in yourself and feeling like no fear is necessary, I believe, to kind of cultivate that mindset. Um, so yeah, just putting yourself out there constantly. I mean, these things that we're doing right now too, right, Coco? I mean, we're not professional public speakers. I mean, these are very uncomfortable things for us too. But by doing these, we get better at it and we improve. And if I had said no, I don't want to do this talk, then I wouldn't have taken this one more step further. Same with you. I think by doing many of these interviews, you're getting stronger and stronger at it. So that's the mindset that we need to have. To have that mindset, I think it's important to just push yourself out there.
Yeah, that's totally spot on. Because honestly, Kani, I'm not so good at stuff like this. But it's funny because I've been doing these lives with my team for like every 2 weeks. It's been on, and yeah, it's definitely fun. It's definitely a challenge for me. So the people that know me well, they'd probably be surprised that I'm actually doing this at all. So yeah, I do agree with you on that.
Just being here and listening to you, you sound like a pro. So that's kind of shows, like, with practice and with putting yourself out there, how things evolve. And yeah, no one would have thought that you were nervous right now.
I was just
Let
saying,
me ask you, so, if I may
yeah.
ask you, do you have any of these moments, like, where you felt like magic happened, or you made the magic happen? And if so, like, can you give us an example? Very curious.
Well, actually, that's actually what's happening here with these lives. I had this idea to kind of launch these, but I didn't want to do it. I was like, I'm not the best person for this. I'm not like a spotlight person. I'm very good behind the scenes. So that's why most people have probably never even noticed me there in Startup Lady up until we started these. And after starting it, I was like, hey, this is really great. And we would get a lot of positive feedback, not just from our community, but guests. So people like you, or even like when we had your co-founder Jan, and we had some of our directors from Startup Lady too, they would mention how a lot of people would suddenly start reaching out to them saying like, wow, I loved hearing your story. Like it was really great to see you on Startup Lady Live. And just getting all this feedback, I was like, wow, just by making a little bit of effort and, kind of doing things that we previously didn't want to, we actually can make magic happen and we can actually touch a lot of people's lives and make a positive impact.
Yeah,
Just someone has to make the first step and, kind of be uncomfortable.
yeah, there you go, right? So you got to put yourself out there, and then kind of things happen on its own. So that's what I'm talking about. Uh, yeah. How was it, like, starting Startup Lady? How did that happen? Like, what's the magic behind that story?
So I think long story short, my co-founders Moiko and Amy, they met at a social event and they started discussing like, well, Amy wanted to start her own business, but she's like, wait, I'm not Japanese. I'm not a native Japanese speaker. I don't know how to start a business. Can you guide me? And Moiko has experience because she's already started her company. So the two of them started talking. And then they're like, hey, this is something we could do. There's probably other people that are struggling with the same issues. So they wanted to actually start Startup Lady, but as a YouTube channel to kind of inspire other people, like, and showcase women entrepreneurs. And at that point, that's when we met our co-founder, Steffi, which you know very well. And she was supposed to help with video editing. And that's how the three of them got together. But unfortunately, the YouTube channel failed because it's just too much work to do all the video editing. And then they were like, okay, we need to pivot and do something different to actually make an impact. So they decided to maybe start doing events. And I knew Amy from previously, and she reached out to me because of my background in like, I love volunteer work and like NPOs. So she's like, hey, Coco, are you interested in helping us out with events? And when the four of us got together, we really felt this connection where we balanced each other's strengths and weaknesses. And we really felt that we could make some magic happen. And yeah, that's when we registered our company and decided to start, yeah, what we're doing today.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's really awesome that you brought the three things that I've been talking about, right? So, making magic happen from within was all about, putting yourself outside your comfort zone, developing a growth mindset, cultivating it, and then it's all about like making the right networking and meeting the people, right? So those things, three things, is what led you to creating Startup Lady, and I think we need to recognize that, and hence the funny topic, but an exaggerated magic analogy. But I really believe, that's how you go about doing things.
So with all of this happening though, there must have been like, I know that there's, you know, times in my life where I'm really struggling and I want to give up and I'm just so fed up, you know, regardless of how positive and how much enthusiasm I might have to make a positive impact on this world. Sometimes I just feel like giving up. Can you can you relate to that?
Yes, as an entrepreneur, our company has grown large. We have uh, real staff, and it's close to about 20 people now. And we have to make. I mean, eventually, it's my responsibility and accountability to ensure that we are sustainable as a business, that we can, uh, you know. Uh, bring out the kind of outcomes in our students and uh, you know, treat our teams the way they should be treated. Um, Make sure there's a paycheck on time, right? And these are real struggles and these are real challenges. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it by any means. I have my days, the ups and downs. It's real. Um, and this is when it's really awesome that you have co-founders, right? Because when you have a bad day, chances are not all your co-founders have a bad day. Sometimes, yeah, maybe we both have a bad day.
Yeah, those are the worst days. Seriously.
But I say 3 co-founders is a nice number, because it's an odd number and you can always break a tie. And also it's very, very hard chances that all 3 are depressed at the same time or upset about something or frustrated. So you can leverage on each other's strengths and moods, and again, going back to how people, with people, there's magic there. But yeah, so that's how I kind of deal with it. I can step down. I have a lot of accountability and responsibility both to our students and our team. And on bad days, I try to be very vulnerable and honest with my staff and team, and I lean on someone's shoulder, and I don't try to be the tough stuff CEO either. Hey, this is how I feel, and this is what it's like today for me, and there's always people to kind of say, all right, Kani, don't worry, tomorrow will be better, right? So that's kind of how I look at it. And of course, there's family to lean on too, right? My family includes my wife and our little adopted 8-year-old fur baby. Uh, so a beagle. But yeah, they kind of, I lean on them when I need to. And also, this sounds really stupid, but I tell people that every day you wake up is a good day. Even the worst day ever, if you're up, especially at this year with the coronavirus, and you should be just rejoicing that there's everything else is small. If you wake up and you're having your coffee and you're sipping and having a donut, that's a good day. So that's another way of how I try to be positive and look at life.
Yeah. So we have another question from Facebook. Anonymous is mentioning, I teach high school girls and I'm wondering what to say to them to have them develop a growth mindset and also the importance of coding for them in particular. How could I convince them?
Small wins. So one of the you asked me before too, like how do you cultivate a growth mindset? And I told put yourself out there, believe in yourself. Another thing is small wins. Small wins are really an awesome tool to structure in a structured way to build a growth mindset, right? So don't give them challenges that are small enough that can be accomplished, and there'll be immense joy in kind of figuring it out and accomplishing this task. Let them work in teams to figure things out versus trying to do them solo. And with these small wins, you start to gain the confidence that you can do it, and that you're good at it, and your mindset changes. So I guess this goes for not just coding, but anything. But it's definitely applicable for coding. We have a lot of things that our students in this program can take as small wins, where they continue to build on that confidence.
So do you actually use like a habit tracker, or do you write stuff down?
I don't. I'm more gut and instinct kind of person, but I have goals, and when I set my goals, I'm really really razor sharp focused on those goals. And I guess it would help me if I would write down some small milestones for that goal, and kind of eat at it one by one. But I tend to chase my goal with the understanding that I have to get there step at a time, and that if I take 2 steps back, and that's also okay. So I do it in a very more unstructured way, but I think there's absolutely ways to help technology and tools and notepads and habit trackers to do it in a more structured way.
Do you set goals like daily, or is it more like quarterly, or do you have any events?
My goals are really big.
Okay.
I'm not scared to aim, shoot for the stars, right? And think about moonshot ideas. I don't tell them out loud, speak them out loud sometimes to everybody. I do speak about them within my family, with my co-founder. Sometimes I get laughed at and ridiculed, but at least I'm not afraid to share it with certain people. But with the rest of the world, I don't, because it also sounds like a joke if you say something that feels like it's totally unachievable. So, but yeah, to the world, I actually, we both Yan and I voice a lot of what we want to achieve publicly like this. So, because it's proven too, but we also through experience know now, the more you speak about something that you want to do or achieve, and you tell people, hey, I'm going to do this next by this December, the more kind of self-pressure you build upon yourself, and you kind of create this, I got to do this now kind of environment on your own. So that's also is another tool of how both Yan and I keep pushing ourselves.
Oh, that's great. I love the partnership that you guys have. Yeah, it's really important to have people that you can bounce these ideas with.
Yeah, have you had that experience where you worked in a team on a goal, like maybe whether it's I don't know, building muscle or putting on, losing some weight? It's always easy to do it when you're kind of in a community, and that's just that community pressure and a little bit of like competition. So those are also good tools to use in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, I totally agree. But because I'm very introverted too, so I'm so private that when I actually do share anything with anyone, it's usually just like one person I can set a goal with. But yeah, I'm not much for sharing things publicly. So yeah, but definitely that would put a lot of pressure on me. That's for sure. Yeah. Oh, we have another question. So from Facebook, what kind of challenges did you face starting your own business in Japan?
Oh boy, there was a lot of challenges. We had no idea what it's like to start a company in Japan. Yet alone, we weren't sure if our idea of building a school here in English, initially, we now have a Japanese program that is full-time, so people have to quit their jobs and do this in English. We weren't sure of our assumptions, and it was really a road that ended like 10 meters down. There's all this mist, and you can't see beyond 10 meters kind of situation. So first goal we set up to do was to do some workshops and meetups. So we were still in San Francisco when we decided to. I decided to use all my United mileage points and fly us down like a couple of times to just come and do. We came from the US to do workshops in Japan, right? Because we realized that we need to validate something before we uproot ourselves and come here. So that was a small challenge and a goal that we set. And guess what? Fortunately, when we did these, the interest was overwhelming. We had in one of our first meetups about we had we didn't put a ceiling on how many seats, and we had about 45 people sign up, and it was just Yan who was going to teach. And I got frantic. I called some of my friends in San Francisco, flew them down overnight because we didn't even know anyone here, so that they could be TAs for this one-time meetup. And but doing those things, those small goals, gave us the confidence more the next thing. So in a couple of these, also we went and spoke to a lot of people to kind of validate the idea. That was another kind of challenge we created for ourselves. And fortunately, majority of the people said that there's a need for a program like this in Japan. So we think you should do it, and it'll be fine. It'll work. So we got a lot of courage and from that too. But then coming to Japan and actually starting a business, where do we even start? Like, there is all these different types of companies you can create, and which is the best, model for us. And I started reading up on all of this and trying to, figure out for myself what to do. And again, here's the magic, right? The people. We reached out to, they're called, I forget, I'll butcher the Japanese word, but they are attorneys who are who help in these kind of business operations. And we consulted in, we went to a person, we interviewed about 3 or 4 different people, and we selected this amazing lady who has a practice in Hiro. And we said, educate us, teach us, help us. And she basically, eventually, her company helped us create the business entity. So that was one challenge, but we kind of overcame that through just talking to people and figuring out maybe it's easier to spend some money here and let the experts handle it. The first ever tax reporting as a Japanese entity was something that was really challenging. As we, and not to throw out a litany of issues that to scare you, but there's a lot of things you need to figure out. I mean, of having our first employee, figuring out how to withhold the taxes so that we can pay it back during tax season for in their behalf. All these were challenges. I mean, it's a challenge anywhere when you start to, create a new company, but yet alone in some foreign country and where we don't have a good command of the language. And it was challenging. All of those things were challenging, but again, one step at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So, we just broke them down into smaller challenges and did what we do best. Yeah.
No, I love that. So thank you so much for your time this evening, Kani.
That's my
Yay! So I'm gonna share the quick recap of our best learnings this evening from Kani. So hold up, let's see if I get this. One of the things you mentioned was just to do it, just jump in. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. If you don't try it, you won't find out. So that's one part of the growth mindset. The other thing you mentioned was about meta learning, which is learning how to learn. If you figure out how you learn, you'll know better next time, and you'll know how to find information or do things your way. Also, of course, our main topic is just realize that all the people in your life are magical. You just have to give it some time, talk to them, and discover why they are magical in their own way. And of course, if everything fails, you can always learn and move forward, learn from this experience. Every failure is a good lesson learned, something you can take away from. And lastly, critique yourself to learn and to grow. because that's the only way that you're going to be better the next time around. You know, you can always choose to take things negatively, or you can choose to learn from this experience to do better next time. So I think that's kind of our best learnings from Kani this evening. And I really want to thank you all for joining us on Tuesday evening. And if you enjoyed this Startup Lady live or learned something valuable, please let us know in the comments or send us a message. And we are a volunteer-based community and organization, so any and all donations are greatly appreciated. So please show us your support. We really appreciate that. And if there are any topics that you think of that you'd like us to cover, let us know. We're always looking for some ideas. Otherwise, it's just me and my team. So please do let us know. And as mentioned before, don't forget to like and follow our Facebook page, join our face and Instagram community, because we always have things ongoing, and sometimes you get notified kind of late. So do make sure that you stay in touch with us. And just to let you know a little bit about what we're doing right now with the Startup Lady Startup Challenge is you can get first access to special resources by joining our free membership that we're offering. If you join our free membership, we are offering a free 60-day startup challenge, which gives you daily actions to get your business idea going. So it's kind of like what Kani said. You get, bite-sized pieces of information that, helps you take one baby step at a time. And the Startup Challenge right now provides daily educational tips to develop your idea into full-fledged startup that, maybe you might want to pitch in the future. And currently, the information that we are providing is created by Masa Tadokoro. He is the author of the best-selling startup book called Startup Science. So please do check us out. And with these tips and our community of like-minded entrepreneurs, you'll find support and accountability to make it through your startup journey. So kind of like how Kani has Jan, maybe you'll find someone like that in our community. So join us for the Startup Challenge. Here's the QR code. So scan, take a photo, something, and join us. And quickly, just want to let you know what's upcoming for Startup Lady. Next week on October 21st, we have a collaboration with Women in Tech Japan, Thriving at Work and at Home. It's Resilience and Well-Being, a free workshop run by Andrew Manterfield, who has 30 plus years of experience as an executive coach. Make sure to register because spaces are limited. And then on Thursday, the following day, on October 22nd at 7:30, we have a live in Japanese with Mayu Arimoto, Director of Startup Lady and Managing Partner of Alessia International Law Office, with a focus on labor and corporate issues in small companies. And then lastly, later this month on Monday, October 26th from 7:30, we will have my personal good friend live with us, Erika Nakazaki, who is the owner of Suka Cafe and Bar located in Azabujuban, focused on Latin American cuisine. And then lastly, okay, this is really last. Wednesday, October 28th is Startup Lady Pitch Night. First stage. We're open now. It's open call for applicants. So please make sure to check us out. All the information is on our social media and some is on our website. So thank you once again. I'm Coco with Startup Lady, and thank you so much for sharing your evening with us tonight.